I think Conor takes him out in the first round. I think Conor's left hand is better than Gaethje's right hand. I think that Conor would take his head off. After the weekend's fights, I meant to do a video, but I've been slammed with work, so I'm only getting around to doing it now. And in the run-up to the fight, I wanted to talk about Justin Gaethje. I had it all prepared in my head because I really don't like him. I don't like the way he talks, I don't like the way he fights, and I don't like the way ex-UFC fighters, now commentators, talk about him as if he's like some top fighter and he's like one of the elites. I don't think it's right. I don't think there's much to it. And I'll give you my thoughts on that shortly. Before that, I'd like you to subscribe and share if you could. That would be great. And whilst I was preparing this video and just having a little think about it, the story of Conor McGregor came out. You know, Conor calls him a clown. I'll jump down to the tweet here from last night. So this was aimed at Justin Gaethje in the aftermath of him losing to Charles Oliveira from a rear naked choke where he tapped real quick. This absolute clown, the owl, pretend to be asleep after he tapped as well. LOL, Jackass. Before the fight, Gaethje keeps saying that he won't ever tap. He ends up tapping and going to sleep, both with Khabib and Oliveira fights. He also called Oliveira a quitter. So Conor took a jab at Gaethje, and rightly so, because every time Gaethje gets on the mic, he wants to put Conor's name in his mouth. Listen, he's chasing clout. That's exactly what it is. And we're talking about human beings here. And this is what I came to realize in the course of putting together this video. Initially, I was going to come after Gaethje really strong, and I probably still will, because his conversation and his piece with the Nelk boys about Colby Covington, it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing, and he talks this really big talk, and I don't think it suits him, and I don't think his record backs it up either, and I'll go through that in a second. So I've never really liked Justin Gaethje. I've never thought he was an elite fighter. I think that he's got a really good stand-up game, a really good game. It's not a great game. If we look at his fights with Tony Ferguson, he tuned him up pretty bad. If we look at his fights with Michael Chandler is one of my favourite guys. I absolutely love that guy. He got clipped early against Tony Ferguson and it looked like he might actually go out. But the dude has got heart, and he fired in that double leg takedown, mounted, landed some big elbows, and then the kick. Holy shit, that kick. But again, it comes down to the person on and off screen, in fight camp, out of fight camp, and Michael Chandler seems to be a great dude. He's a super entertaining fighter, really, really likable, and I'm on the Michael Chandler train. Whatever's up next for him, if it's Conor, I'm all up for that. I love Michael Chandler. When he fought Justin Gaethje, the two of them just let it fly, and it was just haymakers left, right, and centre. Depending on what way you want to look at it, you could say, yeah, Chandler, his chin isn't the best, but he's got a heart of steel. He could have went out early against Gaethje. He could have went out early against Tony Ferguson, but he didn't. Against Gaethje, he went at it. The two of them battled. But Michael Chandler almost put him away as well. In my opinion, I don't think Gaethje's stand-up game is great. It's good. It's sufficient, and he hits hard for someone of his build. He's not really muscular. He's kind of skinny. But he could have lost against Chandler. Against Tony Ferguson, it was pretty straightforward for him. Tony, unfortunately, I think is on the decline. But I don't get the praise that's aimed at Justin Gaethje. And you'll see it a lot from Chael Sonnen and kind of UFC guys, people like Michael Bisping and that. They'll be pumping the praise on him like he's one of the elites. And he certainly isn't. And if we look at the game plan against Charles Oliveira, we hear people like Chael talk about Justin Gaethje's wrestling game, that he's an elite wrestler. I've never seen him stuff a takedown. I've never seen him reverse a position. I've never seen him attempt a takedown. His ground game is, how should I put it, pathetic. My 9-year-old who trains in jiu-jitsu could probably submit him. Khabib mauled him and armbarred him. Not really seen too much in high-level MMA, maybe in the Ronda Rousey era, but again, getting armbarred and controlled on the ground embarrassingly. And the other night, it was no different. I guess his plan was to come forward and try and knock Charles Oliveira out. He caught him a couple of times, cracked him hard. Charles took a few steps back and realised, man, that was powerful, and kind of fell onto his ass. But again, I think that Charles Oliveira is just in that period of his career where everything is going right for him. You know, everything, luck is on his side, skill has really come into play, and the dude has got heart and he's the deserved champion. His bullshit about missing weight, I'm not a big fan of that. We'll see how that plays out. There's a lot of conspiracy theories flying around about that. But Gaethje's plan as an elite fighter against an extremely high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu expert was to come out, walk forward kind of flat-footed and throw haymakers. And that tactic doesn't change from fight to fight with Gaethje. And what would make you dislike him is the fact that when he's on the mic, after a fight, before a fight, promoting a fight, all he does is talk shit like he's Rambo or someone. So he was talking to these Nelk boys on a podcast who I don't trust them either. And of course they love the old clickbaity stuff, as we all do. And they spoke about Colby Covington. And this is what he said.
You don't respect his fight game at all?
I think he's a great fighter. Well, it sucks to watch.
I'm going to pause it there. I'll give Gaethje props for semi-honesty, because I think that Colby Covington is a great fighter. Absolutely great. I don't agree with him when he says it sucks to watch, because when you watch Colby, he presses forward a lot of output, a lot of kind of touching people up with the hands, and I'm into grappling, so watching him transition and use his wrestling and control people is really interesting to me. So it's, for me, Gaethje's style is a tough to watch. It's throw a haymaker and hope it lands, and if it doesn't, you're fucked. You might think that you're some sort of like medieval gladiator swinging for the fences, but dude, there's a lot of skill to what Colby does, and compared to what you do, they're miles apart.
But yeah, I think if I fought him in a cage, he would probably beat me.
Fair enough.
Because of his size and his ability to move forward and his ability to grapple. But in a street fight, there's no fucking chance.
I'm going to pause it there. In a street fight, there's no fucking chance. This seems to be a hot topic that's flying around since the Masvidal-Colby incident. And all of a sudden, every pundit and their friend and their dog are talking about what's the difference between fighting in the cage and fighting on the street. And this is in the aftermath of Masvidal pulling an absolute bitch move, running up behind someone, punching them when they weren't looking. Not really knocking him, not really doing any damage. We know there's a lot of shenanigans playing in the background of all this now with Colby and Masvidal, and look, we'll leave that play out and we'll talk about that in another video. Gaethje's talking about street fighting, Colby Covington, and Colby wouldn't have a fucking chance. Anyone who's been in a street fight will know that the majority of street fights aren't, hey, you stand up in front of me and I'll stand up in front of you and we'll punch, and we'll throw as many punches as we can. It's probably a 2.2 millisecond of a flurry of punches, and the rest is dragging each other's jumpers and t-shirts and pulling and falling all over the place. That's kind of the stereotypical street fight. I don't know what these guys' interpretation of a street fight is. Gaethje and Masvidal and Brendan Schaub and Josh Thompson and all these guys like saying that, you know, Colby isn't street, man. Do they think it's a scene from John Carpenter's They Live where two fighters stand up in front of each other and punch for 40 minutes? It ain't that at all. It's usually no longer than 30 seconds to 60 seconds, and there's a lot of dragging, falling, and the majority of it is on the ground. Taking into account that Colby 6'1"-ish, 180, 190 pounds, I'm sure that if there was a street fight, it would end up in grappling, and it would probably end up with him mounting you. Like, surely his superior wrestling skills would allow him to mount you on the ground of a car park, in a restaurant, or wherever. So I just don't get this whole, he's not street, man. If you get hit in the face and someone's still standing there, it's going to turn into a fight. You're not going to run away. And you are going to mount them and probably smash their head into the ground. So all this silly talk, and these boys are propagating it by constantly asking about street fights and stuff like that, and they continue it here.
That's what I wanted to, because a lot of guys say in a street fight this and in a ring this. What's the difference?
In a street fight, I grab a fucking brick and hit him in the head.
You grab a brick and hit him in the head. That doesn't happen in a street fight. That doesn't. Where are you pulling bricks out of in a street fight when someone comes up to you? It's not that at all. You're probably going to end up grabbing and pulling at jackets and falling to the ground. It's the majority of street fights. Anyone who's ever been in one would know that. But to me, Gaethje, again, I want to give him a little bit of leeway because, you know, I think he's doing what he has to do to sell fights. And I think that maybe somewhere in the back of his mind, I know that he has a lot of self-belief, but maybe somewhere in the back of his mind, he knows that this fighting style of throwing the big right hand over and over again and hoping to win, it's not going to get him very far. So he's trying to capitalize by talking shit at Conor McGregor and Colby Covington. And for me, if he was to fight Conor McGregor, it would be a decent fight because Conor's ground game isn't great. I think Conor takes him out in the first round. I think Conor's left hand is better than Gaethje's right hand. That's what I think. Charles Oliveira came forward, hit Gaethje with a straight and dropped him and mounted him and took his back straight away. Didn't even attempt to punch. I think that Conor would take his head off. I think that Colby would come forward, maul him. I really don't see how Gaethje does anything to any of these top guys. I really don't.
There's rules here. We got rules in this sport, and in the street there is no such thing as rules.
Right.
I think the only rule is don't hit someone from the back. So I'm definitely on his side when it comes to what happened with Masvidal.
Right.
So there you go again. That's Gaethje been rational and he hits the nail on the head. Like, it's to be admired, that honesty. You know, not many people have it. They talk about street, and this guy points out that, look, bitch move from Masvidal. You don't hit someone from behind.
I think that was a bitch move.
Well, look, that's completely and utterly fair enough. And as I said at the beginning of this video, I know it sounds like I've been ragging on Gaethje hard, but listen, props where they're due. He tells the truth. I think he's doing what he has to do for his career. I think he's a good fighter. I think that he's got a great right hand. I think that the amount of praise that gets put on him is not warranted. I don't think he's a high level at anything. And we saw that on the weekend. So what is that? Is that 3 title fights? Khabib, very easy fight for him, armbar. Charles Oliveira, 4 minutes, took 2 right hands and then finished him very, very easy. And I think it was an interim fight with Tony or someone, maybe, I don't know. But where does Gaethje go from here? You know, UFC is kind of strange in terms of, as fighters get older, they continuously get more chances and more chances, and it's kind of interesting to see where he goes from here. So I started out talking about how he wasn't really good at anything. Maybe the right hand, the haymaker, but at the end of the day, we're all humans, and I think Gaethje is human, and I wish him the best going forward. We'll see what his next fight is. If it's interesting, I'll watch. Let me know what your thoughts are on Conor calling him out for pretending to be asleep after he got choked out. Let me know who you think he should fight next. Let me know who you think would win in a street fight, Colby Covington or Justin Gaethje. And hit subscribe. Cheers.